Guild Wars 2 is an absolutely massive game with so much stuff going on, and with an ever increasing amount of new players checking out the game, there are many people who occasionally have a difficult time figuring out how to approach the game and progress through it. Today, as someone who has played the game for many hours since 2012, who has a pretty good grasp on how the game works, and has a relatively decent understanding of the modern new player experience, I want to go over my top 10 biggest beginner tips for Guild Wars 2, ranging from smaller ideas that should help your experience to larger philosophical ideas you may need to think over as you play through the game. So let's get started. In the number 10 spot is how experience works. Just like with many MMOs, you begin the game as a lowly level 1 character and earn experience through different activities until you reach the max level. In Guild Wars 2's case, that is level 80. As you play through the starting tutorial mission, when you create any new character, you will inevitably reach level 2 before heading out on the open-ended adventures that Tyria offers you. And by open-ended, I do mean that literally when it comes to earning experience. Almost everything you do in the game will reward you with experience, from killing monsters, to exploring new areas, to harvesting gathering nodes, to completing maps, to beating dungeons. You can just earn experience how you want, and you will eventually reach level 80. Of course, some stuff like completing maps and occasional special activities that pop up will net you more experience than picking a bunch of flowers, but you will still eventually level up. If you feel lost on what to do as you level up, working through the character adventure guide is going to be super helpful. Not only will it direct you to different pieces of content for you to explore and learn about, but it will give you a big boost of experience. And as you finally reach level 80, experience does still matter as you can progress through the horizontal in-game progression system of masteries that allow you to unlock permanent account-wide upgrades like mounts and gliding. And if you have unlocked every single mastery, or have earned enough experience but haven't unlocked them, your experience still matters as you will gain spirit shards, which are an in-game crafting currency as you gain more and more experience. So from leveling to masteries to earning spirit shards, experience is never wasted. And the number 9 spot is gear progression. Kinda similar to earning experience to grow stronger, getting more gear is also an integral part of Guild Wars 2. As you level up from 1 to 80, it is not generally necessary to gear out your character in any significant way, as most of the content available is incredibly easy to beat. But you can still replace your gear as you level from what you naturally get through completing story missions and leveling up. But you could also go out of your way to find different armor and weapons should you desire. But once you reach level 80, this is when things get serious. It is very easy to fully gear up in Guild Wars 2. There are a bunch of different qualities of gear, including legendary, which is super fancy and expensive gear that is something you may pay attention to in the future, but they share the same stats as ascended gear, which is relatively easy to get. You get this through a few different methods, but the easiest for new players is via the Wizard's Vault, which we will talk about in just a moment. You get some naturally from drops as you play through certain pieces of end-game content, and you can also craft some yourselves through the appropriate crafting disciplines. But the second best gear stat-wise that will serve you perfectly fine for like 95% of the game is exotic gear. This can also be obtained through a variety of methods, but the easiest is simply buying them on the trading post, where you can search up level 80 exotic gear and buy everything you need for relatively cheap, and then be good to go. And the number 8 spot is utilizing the Wizard's Vault. As you complete daily achievements, weekly objectives, and the occasional special objective, you can earn the Astral Acclaim currency that you can spend in the Wizard's Vault. There are many cosmetics that you can buy, including every single one added in past seasons that will stay there forever, and will be updated with all the cosmetics from each current season. But there are a bunch of rewards that you can buy that reset with each season that will allow you to get them every 3-ish months as they reset. The first group of important items are the Wizard's Ascended Armor and Weapon Chests. As I mentioned before, this is incredibly easy to obtain pieces of Ascended equipment that you can get for your character. And excluding getting equipment with different types of stats, once you get these, you will never have to upgrade ever again since these are permanently the max stats. The second group of important items are the Mystic Coins, discounted bags of coins, laurels, and discounted heavy crafting bags. These are all items that you could keep, but selling them or picking up the bags of coin will net you a lot of gold. where the value fluctuates, but buying all of this every season will net you upwards of 390 gold. And unless you get into collecting expensive items and making legendaries, this plus gold you naturally get through the game will be more than enough you need for casual progression through Guild Wars 2. And the third group is extra items you can consider, where some of the things like the transmutation charges a lot of people consider trash, but Mystic Clovers are incredibly valuable for anyone who likes making legendaries. Build storage and template expansions can be nice for in-game players, and realistically, everything would be hypothetically useful depending on what you personally want. Astral Acclaim, the currency used for all of this, is also pretty easy to get. First and foremost, completing the weekly objectives every week is going to net you a ton of Astral Acclaim, and the objectives are pretty easy to do. Oftentimes, any piece of content that is highlighted in a week is going to see a significant surge of players, which will make it even easier for you. And getting the Astral Acclaim from weeklies every week can give you most of what you will want, but it can then be stimulated through completing the dailies each day, which will also just give you a gold coin straight up each day. And special objectives will be helpful to get even more items. In the number 7 spot is inventory management. One of the biggest things that new players struggle with is dealing with their inventory, so I want to give a variety of small tips that you should individually consider as you go through your inventory. First, you have a material storage that you can store materials in. You can go to a bank to withdraw and deposit, but you can also deposit materials by right-clicking on them and depositing them. You could also sell the material on the trading post if you so desire in order to make some gold, and that will clear it out of your inventory. However, you can also go to the top right of your screen and click this little box with the down arrow to instantly deposit every crafting material in your inventory should your material storage have the space for it. You should also consider clicking on this gear icon to check out the few different options to customize your inventory. Many players, including myself, like to hide bags so that their inventory is one giant grid. While you explore, you will likely get loot bags that you can open to get materials and gear from. If you aren't sure you open them all, you can type in open in the search bar to find all of those bags. From basic vendors, you can also buy salvage kits that will allow you to salvage any gear you get into materials. So a very simple and traditional gameplay loop is to look at your inventory, open all of the bags you get, salvage all of the gear you get, deposit all those materials or sell whatever you want, and then consume any essences of luck you get to permanently upgrade your loot gains on your account. Doing those simple things will clear up your inventory by a lot. After that, you should have a variety of random items that have a variety of different purposes. If you're like me, you may hold on to a lot of stuff on your main character that is relevant to many different things, or pieces of content or specific projects you are working on, but you can go one by one and decide whether you want to keep something, delete something, or use something. And if you're never sure what something is, you can always look it up by going to the Guild Wars 2 wiki and reading through the page. And the wiki can be easily accessed by typing /wiki and then the specific item afterwards to directly open the appropriate wiki page in your preferred browser. And to simplify things even further, you can type /wiki and then shift-click whatever item to just paste the name directly into chat. In the number 6 spot is learning about movement in Guild Wars 2. Guild Wars 2 is a very special game in many ways, but maybe one of the most special ways, which is something you definitely begin to grasp as you get a handle on the game, is that the entire game is designed around the philosophical idea of the freedom of movement. You have your traditional ideas of walking around with WASD, but most players like to move around by holding down both mouse buttons and directing your character with your mouse. You can also hold down just your right mouse button and direct your character that way, but still move with WASD, which is generally better if you have the hand mobility to do so. Also, a bonus tip here is that Guild Wars 2 has a phenomenal action camera mode that can change how you play the game a lot if you're somebody who likes this type of gameplay. With the ideas of basic movement, you can pretty much approach every piece of content in Guild Wars 2. But if you're somebody who likes to push the movement of games to its limits, there are a lot of intricacies you can learn. To briefly highlight some ideas, jumping is a big part of the game that can be incredibly helpful to complete jumping puzzles, navigating the road in general, and in certain PvP situations. With that, there is also a small gimmick where you can dodge and jump at the same time, which will allow you to jump even further than normal, while also getting evade frames. There are a ton of mounts and various masteries that each have their own specific movement speed, jump height, special movement abilities, and whatnot. Learning to utilize mounts to their full potential and combining mounts and abilities together is very helpful to help you navigate around maps. My single biggest tip here for new players who are getting further into their Guild Wars 2 journey is to recognize that you can be very creative with how you move around the world, and you should experiment with and practice those ideas. And as you do so, you can get more and more comfortable with navigating the road of Tyria in unique ways. And the number 5 spot is recognize how the game respects your time. This is less of an in-game tip and more of a personal psychological approach to the game as a whole. Everything in this game is very respectful to your time. In the short term, many major events and world bosses in the game are on a set timer that can allow you to schedule your life around it, should you so desire to for whatever reason. Additionally, it is relatively easy to check the looking for group tool in the game for groups once you figure out the obfuscated user interface. And if there are no groups, you can try making one yourself. The only progress you could ever lose in Guild Wars 2 if you ever have to walk away from your computer are open world events that will progress without you, and the occasional unique area around the world that may kick you out should it close if it is only accessible during certain times. In the long term, Guild Wars 2 is renowned for being one of the friendliest games for players to get back into. This game has almost no vertical progression once you reach level 80. Once you reach level 80 and get Ascended gear, you've done it. You're basically as powerful as you can get outside of some massive gold sinks to get legendary gear for convenience, or to get some bonus infusions to get slight stat increases in your armor, which is also a one-time thing for each character. There's no gear treadmill in this game, which many people like, but unfortunately for you, none of that here. Once you're geared and you log out for 10 years and come back later, congratulations, you still have the best gear. Additionally, all the progress you made is obviously saved, assuming you remember your login information for the game. The total percentage of content you have completed in the game is obviously going to decrease if you view content in that way, as Guild Wars 2 gets regular content updates multiple times per year. So should you return in the future, you can still continue playing through everything you were playing through, and there is likely still going to be a good population there, but there will also be a ton of new stuff that you can play through, assuming you purchased each relevant expansion. And this is how many people approach Guild Wars 2. They'll come and go when they feel like it, and many people who play multiple games will play Guild Wars 2 as a side game, as supplemental content for whatever main game they like to play. And the number 4 spot is balancing multiple characters. This is another idea that is more on the psychological and organizational side of things. Many people who play MMOs like to play a singular character and only ever play that character. Many other people who play MMOs like to spread out all their playtime across multiple different characters, and some people, like myself, like to spend most of their time on one character, but also spend a substantial amount of time on many other characters as well. If you are in the second or third group, this game is incredibly aught-friendly. When it comes to leveling up a character and gearing them, that is individual. You have to do that for each character, but you can earn many tomes of knowledge on your main character through different pieces of gameplay that you can then toss on alternate characters to level them up. You can also earn gear on your main character that you can then share with your other characters, especially legendary gear, which is expensive to make, but will be permanently unlocked to your legendary armory on your account, and every single character can use that gear, assuming they can equip it depending on their profession. No longbows for elementalists. I know, it's okay. Your story progress is also character dependent, and you will have to play through all of that to complete it should you want to, and also access different maps. But you can often earn permanent teleport scrolls to different maps on your main character that can be used by any character, or you can utilize special waypoint of friends and teleport to someone in your party who's where you want to go. Additionally, there are things like map completion, which includes hero points, as well as crafting, which is individual, but those would work a little weird if they weren't shared. But outside of all of that, everything is shared across your account without any workarounds. Masteries are shared, skin unlocks are shared, achievement points are shared, your bank, your currency, your material storage, your crafting recipes outside of discovery, your PvP and WVW ranks, your account bonuses, your fractals of the mists level, and probably a few other things that I can't think of. And the number 3 spot is combat intricacies. Similar to mastering movement in Guild Wars 2, there are some ideas here that players who are starting to take Guild Wars 2 more seriously should consider. Starting off, leveling from 1 to 80 and experimenting with different abilities and traits is a great way to get a good handle on the game while also learning about the specific profession you picked. And at 80, you can obviously and easily experiment with a wide variety of different builds that you come up with to play through the game. But for certain types of content, particularly endgame PvE or competitive PvP, it can definitely be worthwhile to look at online resources like MetaBattle as a single example for different builds to use. The game's combat heavily focuses around boons. All of them are important, but quickness and alacrity are exceptionally important, and every single in-game group is optimized around the idea of providing those boons. In a single group or subgroup of a larger squad of players, you would typically have a single player focusing on providing alacrity, one player focusing on providing quickness, one of those two players also focusing on providing healing for the group, and then the remaining 3 players focusing on dealing damage. Since endgame content focuses so much on providing boons, and since you provide boons and healing to people directly around you or in a certain direction depending on an individual skill, Guild Wars 2's gameplay becomes very deathball-y in the end game, where you typically all stack on top of each other and move around at the same time. If you are away from the group, you aren't getting buffs or healing, so you will be dealing significantly less damage and may even die. I have a slightly older video going into more detail about combat that I'll link down below if you want a broader overview of this aspect of Guild Wars 2. In the number 2 spot is how to make gold. Maybe the most asked question in any MMORPG, making gold is a pretty big aspect of this game as gold is used for many different things around the game. I talked earlier about the Wizard's Vault, and that is an absolutely incredible way to get gold, especially if you are a pretty casual player, as you will get so much of what you will ever need through that, and it is very easy to obtain. From there are a wide variety of different specific gold farms that you can grind in order to pad your pockets. I made a whole video about this that I'll also link down below, but you can also utilize a great community resource from the Fast Guild that highlights many different gold farms and other ways to make gold, like by converting currencies, which is a great resource. Certain farms, like those located in Dragonfall, Drizzlewood Coast, and the Silver Wastes, are iconic farms that are always decently popular. But my single biggest tip for making gold is understanding where you can make gold, combining a bunch of different tactics together, and just have fun playing through the game. If you play a lot and do things that give you gold, you will naturally just earn a lot over time. Picking up all the stuff that gives you gold in the Wizard's Vault is great alongside the gold you get from completing the Wizard's Vault daily achievements. Selling the materials you get as you explore through the world, gather resources, and salvage gear is going to be helpful. Playing through different world bosses and meta events is going to give you a lot of gold here and there as you do that. Playing through different festival activities and getting gold that way as they come around every year is helpful. Engaging in activities like fractals, dungeons, and fishing is going to net you a bunch of gold. Throw in an odd character at certain locations to log into them when you remember, and harvest or open whatever is at a location you are parked at is helpful. And just doing anything is going to give you a fair bit of gold. Really grinding certain things is always going to net you a lot of gold, but it could also burn you out of the game. Recognizing the wide variety of easy and natural ways you accumulate gold will get you a ton of gold, especially if you play a lot. But now for the number 1 spot, for my single biggest tip I have for new players to Guild Wars 2, and it is how to approach the game. As you can tell from this entire video, Guild Wars 2 is indeed a massive game with so much stuff going on. For new players, especially when you first start playing Guild Wars 2, there is a lot of stuff going on and it can be very overwhelming. First, a tip for people who are more experienced or hardcore with playing games and MMOs in general is that there are a bunch of community resources and different YouTubers specializing in different things that you can really dive deep into and learn a lot about what is going on. But for players who are more casual, which tends to be the majority of people, since Guild Wars 2 does a really good job at being designed in a way that is good for the average player, my single biggest tip is as follows. When you first start playing the game, you should really focus on just exploring the world of Tyria, experimenting with some different skills and traits as you unlock them, and play through some of the content present in the world. As you begin to get a bit of a handle on the game and as you reach level 80, start branching out a little bit. Try out some PvP, some WVW, some fractals, and really just try every single piece of content in the game. Take a little bit more time to learn how combat works and get a good build going for whatever content you are playing. As you play through everything, you should really learn a lot about how the game as a whole works, but more importantly, what you specifically enjoy. If you tried PvP and you hated it, you should never play PvP again until you get to a point where you want to try again. And that is true with everything. Maybe you'll get to a point where you learn the only things you enjoy doing is fishing and jumping puzzles, and that is completely okay. Guild Wars 2 is, in fact, a video game, and you should approach it the way you like. But as you figure out what you like and how you like to play the game, you can really start diving deep into that content. If you figure out that you like doing raids and fractals, you can start practicing super optimized builds and try to maximize as much damage as possible while learning how each boss fight works, and so on and so forth with every other piece of content that you want to dive further into. The most important thing in Guild Wars 2, or any video game for that matter, is to play what you want to play for as long as you want to, and stop when you stop enjoying something. And that's my list. I hope you enjoyed. I hope these tips are helpful for people who are approaching the game for the first time. I know I said a lot in this video, and there are a lot of things to digest, but I would also love it if people gave their own tips down in the comments to provide even more help to those who may want it. I hope you all are taking great care of yourselves. Have a good one, everyone.